Hey everyone, Will Brink here, brinkzone.com. Today's going to be a interesting show. If you know my friend from way back, Dr. Udo Erasmus, we actually have a show we did together. It's a few years old now, but we are going to discuss the latest and greatest topics and catch up. We have not talked in a little while. And of course, anyone's been paying attention to the current goings on knows that there is a uh, a big fight, to put it mildly, over seed oils. We'll get to that, but that's a hot one, as you know. That's a very hot topic. And if there was anyone who has been in the business, if he almost basically, I have to say, I think he actually more like started the business. So I wouldn't say in it. If anybody made humanity aware of the value of seed oils and essential fatty acids and things like omega-3 and omega-6 ratios and all that, it would be Dr. Erasmus, who wrote a very popular book back in the day, and that's how he and I got to know each other, and we will talk about that. But seed oils, of course, is a very hot topic, and they're, as usual, the signal to noise with that topic is horrendous. And if anybody can cut through the signal to noise to get to the signal, it will be Dr. Erasmus. So I am not even going to waste too much time. I'm going to add Dr. Erasmus into this conversation. So in fact, I would say, like the bad TV show, a man that doesn't really need a lot of introduction, because if you don't know Dr. Erasmus, you're doing it wrong. Because he, like I say, if anybody has been teaching people, and he taught me 30 plus years ago about the values and production and quality and necessity of EFAs and all that. And we'll get into a little bit of fun. How are you, Dr. Erasmus?
I'm almost as good as you are, and I'm fabulous.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And you look great. You look, as the man said, you look marvelous.
Marvelous, marvelous.
Yes, remember that. See, that was a skit in Saturday Night Live from a
Okay,
million
there was
years ago.
also a song. I
Was
tell
it?
you that you're marvelous, too
Okay.
marvelous for words.
All right. I'm assuming that's an older song,
Old hit song.
old hit
Long.
song. All
Yeah.
right. So quick moving a little, bringing people up to speed.
Yeah.
Again, people may or may not be aware of your original book, Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, right? When was that published?
1993.
93. Okay. And as I recall, that was originally based off of your PhD thesis, right? Did that develop from that?
Yeah, it was my PhD thesis, which was originally published as Fats and Oils.
Mm-hmm.
And then I updated and enlarged and expanded it to what I learned after I started traveling and talking to people and working with oils.
Right.
And Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill is there an expanded, enlarged version
Right.
of what was my PhD thesis.
Have you considered doing like an update or a
You know
version
what?
two or anything?
It's basically, it has all the basics.
Right.
Nothing has changed.
Right. So none of the
We,
important key messages
we
changed in there.
no.
Right. Okay.
What there's more details.
Right.
The resolvins and protectants
Yeah.
and the eicosanoids, like some of the derivatives the body makes from essential fatty acids. They've studied more in depth.
Right.
But if you get it right at the front end by
Right.
properly filling yourself with the right fats in the right ratios, in the right amounts,
Right.
undamaged, not fried, if you do that, everything else your body knows how to do.
Right. Yeah.
So
That makes sense. Yeah.
so there's not much to add, but then you get into the marketplace and there's all kinds of people saying all kinds of things.
Oh yes,
I laugh about
they are.
free speech. The upside is you get to say what you want, and the downside is you get to say what you want. It doesn't have to be true.
Yes.
And so there's always stuff going on, and there's agendas behind it. And you know what's interesting is all the people who complain, who bitch about seed oils and omega-6s, not one of those people has ever talked to me. Not one.
Right.
Not Mercola, and not, they've heard gossip behind my back.
Right.
But they have never talked to me.
And as you know, they are almost universally regurgitating
each other.
Each other.
Yeah.
They're not even really depending on the data, of which there's quite a bit of it. There's stats. It's not like there's lack of data. We have lots of data.
They're not looking at the data. They're only looking at the data, a part of the data, but they're also not looking deep enough. There's a difference between what I came up with, and it's like 40 years ago now. And what they're doing is, I got to a point where I looked at one study that said omega-6 is an essential nutrient. And an essential nutrient is one that you can't make in your body, but you have to live and be healthy. So you have to bring it in from outside.
Yeah.
And if you don't get enough of that nutrient, your health will deteriorate. You will get deficiency symptoms. They'll get worse with time. And if you don't get enough long enough, you die. That's the second part. The third part is, if you're going down because you're not getting enough, but you bring enough back into the diet, then all the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed, because life knows how to use these things if you make sure to bring them in. Right.
Makes sense.
And the very next study I read said omega-6 gives you cancer and kills you. And I'm going, what? WTF, right?
Yeah.
It's like, wait, I have to eat it so it can give me cancer and kill me?
Yeah. And as you know, those conclusions that they have, when they say that, are mechanistic. They're mechanisms that if you look at some mechanism, you can come to this conclusion. Yeah. But in the real world, in the actual outcome studies of people eating these oils, we know this is not the case.
Yeah, and the mechanism has context, and they don't look at the context.
Right. They don't understand. So they're either doing it out of because they know better and it's an agenda, or they just don't know any better and they don't understand context and nuance.
No, I think they mostly do it because freaking you out, making you scared, threatening you gets attention. And then behind that, they get attention for themselves for something else they're doing. Right. That's mostly what they're doing.
Right. So clickbait type information. Right. Well, and everybody, especially again, what they call, these influencers and modern influencers and stuff, they're desperate to say something edgy and shocking
that gets
to
attention.
Drag you in to make you think like you're being let in on some information that was being hidden from you.
Yeah. Like so let me finish the story. Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking at this. It's like, you got to have it and it kills you. I'm going, what? And I didn't just pick a side. We like to pick sides. I like to stay in the middle, right? Whether you're talking about Democrat, Republican, or you're talking Christian, Jew, or whatever, so people take sides. I said, no, I must be missing something. Because if they can say this about it and then they say the opposite about it, there must be something else going on. And it was that question, trying to figure it out, like a little bit OCD, right? So like, I really got to figure this out. I started looking at how oils are made. And then I realized that that in order to get a long shelf life on oils that by nature have a pretty short one, because they're damaged by light, by oxygen, and by heat. And they're the most sensitive of all of our nutrients that need the most protection.
Right.
Instead of blaming the damage done to those oils by processing or by frying, by industry processing or frying, they just blamed the oil. That's what happened. And they didn't do their homework. They didn't look deep enough. They jumped to a conclusion. Seed oils are bad, omega-6s are bad. Even though omega-6s were well known since 1929 to be essential nutrients that you have to have and cannot make in your body.
Right. Well, and of course, the U.S. diet, I'm assuming the Canadian diet and a lot of other diets are very lopsided in that omega-6 to omega-3 ratio.
Everywhere. So one of them is the damage done to the oils. Yep. Omega-3 is 5 times more sensitive to damage than omega-6, so that needs even more care. And nobody wants to give oils that kind of care. They just like shelf life and big market and big profits.
Mm-hmm.
And so the industry has never addressed that either, right? And so one issue was the damage done by processing and cooking. Then that on top of that, there was pesticides in the oils because they don't use organic seed. Then you get plastic in the oil because now all the oils are in plastic bottles, and oils swell plastic, and then plastic leaches into oil quicker than water.
Right.
Then we use them for frying, so you basically maybe 5 times the damage that you're doing to the oil in the frying pan.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then the other thing that happened that I wrote about years ago, we have brought our omega-3 intake. We need them both. They're both essential, omega-3 and omega-6. We've brought our omega-3 intake down to 1/6, 16% of what people used to get in 1850. And this was like 30 years ago. And we have increased our intake of omega-6, doubled, tripled, quadrupled, maybe even 10 times. And the problem with that is, so the fish oil industry will tell you can't convert omega-3s in the body. But that's not true. But what is true is that omega-6 and omega-3 both use the same genetically based enzyme system in the cells to get converted into all of the derivatives, some of which are hormonal, some of which create eicosanoids, like major functions in the body, super important. They use the same mechanism in the cells to be converted into all the other molecules. So that means they compete for enzyme space. And if you get too much of one, it'll crowd out the other.
Right. And
if you get too much of the other, it'll crowd out the one.
I recall the enzyme, the desaturase enzyme also prefers one over the other. So you're doubling.
Well, they actually prefer the omega-3s.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're called the delta 60. So the desaturases and the elongases, they make those chains longer. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that from some of those derivatives, the body makes hormone-like regulating molecules called eicosanoids, prostaglandins, prostacyclins, thromboxanes, and leukotrienes. Yeah. And they regulate cell activity lifelong on a moment-to-moment basis in every cell in the body. They're super important. So what we've done is we have shifted the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 in a major way. And the omega-3s that 99% of the population doesn't get enough for optimum health of are crowded out because we have so many omega-6s competing. Right. When you balance the ratio, the body actually converts omega-3 just as well and even better than omega-6s.
Has your thoughts or advice on the ratios changed over the years I've known you, or are you still in the same feeling?
We still use twice as much omega-3 as omega-6 because that's sustainable. Mm-hmm. I became omega-6 deficient on flax oil. Flax oil is 4-to-1.
Right.
Four times more omega-3 is too much. So we brought it down to 2-to-1. The highest ratio that is sustainable traditionally in diets was 2.5-to-1. So we brought it down just a little bit, 2-to-1, sustainable. The omega-3s get some preponderance. That's good because they're anti-inflammatory. So they pretty much help. One of the researchers said, when you increase omega-3s in your diet, provided they're not damaged, you can improve virtually every major degenerative condition of our time.
Well, because most major degenerative conditions are inflammatory or have an inflammatory component to them.
Right. And omega-3s are anti-inflammatory, and 99% of the population doesn't get enough of them.
Right. And they are, omega-3, of course, or a ratio, but also amounts, of course, are correlated or associated with anti-inflammation and reduced rates of all kinds of diseases that we deal with.
Yeah.
Which, you know, when we talk about it, like you and I are talking about it, it's not that complicated a concept. And
it isn't.
And yet it's like rocket science when you're trying to get industry or the medical profession.
The devil is always in the details.
Yeah.
Right. So you have this system and there's competition between them. That explains all the things of why you need to pay attention to it. But if you don't look at that, then you come up with something. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, the body can't convert omega-3s. That's what the fish oil people say.
It's well, that's because they want to sell fish oil. I mean,
no, I understand that.
I'm not anti-fish oil in the least. I take both the precursor and I take a little fish oil myself. But I as you said though, obviously every industry has its own agenda for making certain claims.
Yeah,
and now of course, which we'll get to. We'll get to the big topic of the anti-seed oil agenda, but let's save that one because that's
as long as we think money is our savior, the truth will suffer.
Yes, always. Yes. There's always an agenda behind so many of the claims,
behind all the stupidity.
Yeah. So I mean, and again, going so backward in time, early 90s, I was in school and I was doing a lot of research, and I had a very good understanding of proteins and carbohydrates.
Yeah.
But I really did not have a good grasp of fat, of lipids. I just knew that what you taught you in school, saturated versus unsaturated, that was about it.
Yeah.
And I was in the store, I was in Whole Foods talking to one of the guys that worked there, Richard. I still remember his name, Richard, great guy. And he said, here's a new book. This is a great book. You got to read this book. It really goes into detail about fats, and he said, and I said, and it was your book. This was early 90s, and so that really brought me up to speed on fats. And then from there, being a researcher type that I am, I was able to take that as kind of my launching pad to then go into the data and really research that topic, and then made contact with you. I don't remember how. It might have been email. I'm not sure. That I don't recall. But I'm just going to change a little bit because I want to show an anniversary thing to viewers so people can see how far back. So I contacted you and I wanted to write an article about this topic, the importance of EFAs, essential fatty acids, which at that time that was not a known, even today, it's not that well known, but at that time, the very concept of essential fatty acids, omega-3s, omega-6s, all the stuff you're talking about was fairly unknown.
Yeah. Part of the reason for that was that omega-3 was only established as essential in 1981.
Okay. So, and at that point, again, I guess people knew a little bit about fish oil, but that was about it. So this was also not the peak, but towards the end of the high carb, super low fat diets, which were miserable. They were the worst diets and I was in the bodybuilding field and the athletic field, terrible. Yeah. Nobody got good responses from those diets. They didn't last that long.
Yeah.
But
except the carb industry got good responses from it.
Well, of course, all the super low fat, high carb, muffins and all that stuff came out. Yeah. So I contacted you about doing an article so that we could really, which for Muscle Mag International. Well, originally not for Muscle Mag International. I take that back. Originally, I submitted it to Muscle Media, and Muscle Media, the editor, his name was TC Luama. I still talk to him occasionally, and I never let him let this down either. TC Luama turned it down because he has, you're crazy. What? Eat fat to lose weight? You're out of your mind. I'm not going to publish this.
Yeah. Eat fat, get fat. Story. Yeah.
I bust his balls about that every time I see him. Even to this day, I still give him. Yeah. Because he knew it was a mistake. Later on, he realized that but he turned that article down. So I gave it to Muscle Mag International. Now here is, I want to see people to see this. Now this is about 30 years to the day, 1996. And this is, if anybody remembers that Muscle Mag International, that's 1996. And here is the Eat Fat. It's backwards. Want to get ripped, eat fat. And that is the article that you and I wrote, if I can show it to people. 1996. So it's been basically 30 years to the day, because we're in, almost a little over 30 years to the day. Would have been February 96 that we wrote that article. And some people will remember it, but I as you remember, that was at the time really a groundbreaking article. I mean, that article had probably, for me, probably took me from being modestly well-known to a next level of well-known, right? Especially for that topic, because at that point also, I started putting the athletes and people that I was working with on flax oil, because that's all we had. Your Udo's choice oil didn't exist at that time. And and again, people couldn't believe it. I had one guy, a professional bodybuilder named Tony Freeman, on 7 tablespoons a day of flax oil and still losing weight and still losing fat. And he did that dose right up to a show, which people couldn't believe. Now, he's a big guy. I mean, that sounds like a lot of fat, but this is a 300-pound guy who's got the metabolism of a Clydesdale. So for him, still
only faster.
But he's a big guy. But anyway, so that's how far back you go farther back than I do on this topic. But for me, my aha moment, my awakening to the differences of fat, how important they were, the ratios, EFAs, processing, for me, this was like a whole new world of stuff, was about early 90s, right around maybe 94-ish.
And I got poisoned by pesticides in 1980. That's when I began to look at nutrition. And 81, I started looking at oils, and I got caught in oils, not proteins and minerals and vitamins, because oils were so confusing. And I had to, and I was sick, so I wanted to get healthy. So I needed some truth, not somebody's opinion. And so I buried myself in the journals for like 6 years. And when I went to university, like I left in 68, we had a lipids course. I didn't learn any of the, I didn't know there were pesticides in foods. I didn't know how they're damaged by processing. I didn't know that they're really sensitive to damage by light, oxygen, and heat. So none of the practical things that you need to know did I learn in the academic institution, University of British Columbia.
I don't know if things are gotten that much better either. I hate to say it. They got a little better.
There are some. When I've gone to some of the conferences, I meet people who say that they changed their major in university after reading Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, and then dedicated their lives to studying fats. And some of them are doing pretty innovative things. So there's more information now, although
a lot more.
It may not have made it into the university courses, but certainly the research has gone.
No, the research, yes, certainly, and I have kept up with it. I have never given up on even 30 years or plus for myself. I have continued to this day to read the literature and all that to see what is being learned and what we understand. And unfortunately, segue. Unfortunately, we have somehow gone backwards in time back to a level of ignorance on these fats all of a sudden. Which I'm working my way up to the current anti-seed oil hysteria. That is going on, which is somewhat disheartening. I mean, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, no lie lives forever. So it will work its way back around again at some point. But it has been a very strange few years where the whole bunch of and I'm going to put experts in annoying quotes because these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about. We could name names, but whatever that have gotten people all freaked out. The current anti-seed oil thing, of which it's a little perplexing in some ways, but I guess we could get into that topic somewhat.
Yeah.
Where would you like to begin with the current anti-seed oil?
Well, I think what happens is I think bullshit travels in cycles through time.
Mm-hmm.
So McGovern report in 1970, whenever it was 1977, 79, that created the food pyramid with the carbs at the bottom. Mm-hmm. That was 1979. In 20 years of using that food pyramid, overweight went from 25 to 60% of the American population. And nobody questioned the pyramid. Right. Nobody. So, and so I created a pyramid because they were messing with it a little bit, the Department of Agriculture. And in the probably 19, I don't know, maybe it was 2003 or somewhere around there. They sent me a letter, and I wanted to incinerate the food pyramid and start from scratch. And they only let us nibble at the edges. I was considered an expert, so they wrote to the experts, but they didn't let us tell them what we knew or what we thought.
Didn't the food industry lobby mostly dictate what was really going to be put, what was going to appear where on that pyramid?
Probably.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, so I was on the plane flying to Japan, and I created a food pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
And that food pyramid is still better than what RFK has come up with. But RFK at least has turned it around and put the carbs, because carbs, there are no essential nutrients in carbs. And carbs, if you eat more than you burn, anytime you eat more than you burn, you turn on fat production in the body. Whereas the omega-3s turn on fat burning in the body and turn off fat production actively. That's why the fats don't make you fat. They also suppress appetite. But look, and my son, Ty, who's worked with bodybuilders for, fitness for 30 years too, he says what he used to do is he used to take them off carbs and put them on Udo's oil-based diets with vegetables, when they wanted to lose the fat under their skin so they would look shredded in the competitions. And it always worked, because they would burn the carbs in their skin, under their skin. They burn the fat under their skin by forcing fat burning. And so they would basically, it would take them about 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, to get really shredded for their competition, because they wanted the muscle fibers to show, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that's always the goal.
So that your bigness was not fat; your bigness was muscle.
It's a delicate balance, of course, to get the subcutaneous fat off, maintaining the muscle fullness.
Yeah,
which is that's the balance, because you can also, of course, lose a lot of muscle during those diets and look terrible. But that's
not if you do it with omega-3s.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I always lowered carbs down when at least with the bodybuilders and some of the fitness models and stuff. I always brought carbs. I didn't go zero, like ketosis style diets. Yeah. I went probably 30%. I mean, it was going to be higher protein and more healthy fats was pretty much the direction I went, and usually probably as low as about 30%. So that gave you enough carbs to train on and not be a zombie. Some people can do okay on a ketogenic style diet. I was never a huge fan of them myself, but I mean, I've seen people do well on them, and they can work out. But I just didn't really see the necessity to go all the way down to ketogenic style diets. But I got, saw pretty good results, but definitely, at least, real world experience, the type of fats would make a big difference. No doubt about that. And again, prior to, there was no, and of course you can go on those high omega-3 intakes for a time, but you can't do it sustainably. You wouldn't want to do flax oil for forever.
No, because you'll become omega-6 deficient.
But 8 weeks or something in that ballpark was fine. And then you'd be back to your normal diet. Do you want to get discuss, segue into the Maha RFK thing / anti-seed oil, or should we sort of separate, because they're kind of together, because he's also one of these anti-seed oil zealots, which was one of the areas him and his proponents really fall short.
Yeah, and I know why. Is because he's being he's a lawyer, right?
Yes, he's an attorney. Yes, so, he's not a scientist. Yeah,
no, he's not a nutritionist, and
no,
and so he has to listen to people who have expertise, and sometimes expertise is confused with loudness.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are making the most noise have not done their homework. I guess because they were too busy making noise, they didn't have time to do their homework.
Or,
and he's being educated. He's been educated by followers of the seed oils are bad, omega-6s are bad diet. And there's so many right now. There's so many. There've always been some.
The unfortunate part is that they are also proponents. They are proponents of replacing all those oils with saturated fats.
Right.
That is pretty much where they're going with it. So they have convinced themselves that saturated fats are healthier, and better for you than seed oils and EFAs and all that.
Yeah, and some of those guys are also going back on higher carb diets. Yeah,
I'm trying to. I top of my head. I mean, some of them are at least getting away from the carnivore zero carb diets finally.
Yeah.
Towards more carbs. I don't know but I don't know whether it's going from that to high per se, I mean, whatever we would cut that out.
Some of them are, and some of their information comes from a guy who dissed my work in 1989.
Okay.
I started in 80. He dissed me in 89. And he wrote some articles. He said essential fatty acids are not essential if you take enough B vitamins. This guy was a professor.
Okay.
Oregon, right? And then I read some of his stuff, and I looked at his references, and he had like numbers for references, and he didn't have references for his work.
I mean, there was nothing there. It was it was empty. No. Okay.
Yeah, there were no references. Right.
Well, so that that's almost a good summary of exactly what is there when the claims that are being made today.
Yeah.
Again, when the claims are being made today, either there are no references, or what does exist is literally the opposite of what they're claiming. If people just bothered to go look, they would realize that again, there is nothing to almost nada for actual support of the entire anti-seed movement beyond what you've been saying all along, which is the ratios are what matter and the quality of the oil is what matters.
Yeah.
And if those two things are in line, then you're going to get a benefit from these oils. If those two things are not, i.e. the ratios are way off and they are burnt, highly processed oils, then you are of course going in a negative direction.
And you are dealing with the most sensitive of all of our nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to people sometimes, more health problems come from damaged oils than any other part of nutrition. And more health benefits will come from getting your oils right than any other part of nutrition.
Right.
And that's true. If omega-3s can improve virtually every generative condition of our time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking about major benefits across the board.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's a little bit now. So coming back to specific to the RFK thing and all that, I have to say and I have been looking. I read his report. I have to say the macro message that he's giving, I like it, which is eat whole foods.
Yeah,
it's in the details that he's falling apart, but at least on the macro side, I actually really like the message that he's giving.
If you look at nature,
every
creature that eats all its food fresh, whole, raw, organic, local, mostly seasonal, and for human beings, probably mostly plant-based, because when we were hunters, in the Stone Age and we only had stones to hunt with, we came home without meat most of the time because the animals run away and they fight back. Well, and so if they didn't have meat, they ate vegetables because they're easy to hunt down and kill.
Yeah, they don't fight back and bite either.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the confluence of information and data and all that, blue zones, all of that stuff have all sort of converged, certainly to support a plant-based, which is not the same as vegan, as we have to differentiate that plant-based is not necessarily vegan, it's just mostly plants.
But it should be a whole food plant-based because we're not talking about margarine and sugar.
Right.
those are plant-based too.
Right. Yeah, like I say, so I have to give credit where it's due, at least that I say the macro message I really like the macro message. Whole foods, less processed foods. I think that's where he's got it right. Yeah. And I think that's like I say, but the details are unfortunately where he has strayed. The anti-seed oil thing, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not supported by the data. It is not supported by even real world, clinical experience. And it's not, as you said earlier, it is not contextual. It is not nuanced. And like I say, in understanding the difference between those ratios. And and of course the processing of the oil, though I am dismayed by, like say, the fact that they have thrown all of that away and they're recommending, like say, that saturated fat over any of the seed oils or any of the EFAs or any of the plant-based oils, which is where they really make the mistake.
Yeah.
And then what we've got is this also this cult of denial where they sort of tell each other that saturated fats are fine, cholesterol doesn't matter, they're unrelated to heart disease, and this is going to end badly. I have to say this is not going to end well.
What's interesting is that when saturated fats tend to make you insulin resistant,
right?
But omega-3s make you more insulin sensitive,
right? Improve it, yes. Right.
So that's why the title "Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill" is such a good title, because you're literally talking about two opposite stories in the region of fats.
Yeah. And I don't think, and again, unfortunately, as easy as it is to find, I don't think most people are aware that saturated fats decrease insulin sensitivity, that they will increase. They are associated, obviously, with diabetes. And now, if you go to like zero carbs, okay, then of course you have nothing. You have almost nothing to make glucose from. But you don't need to do that to yourself. It's not required to have good insulin sensitivity.
But the saturated fats, the hard fats, also make your platelets more sticky.
Right.
So, the omega-3s relax arterial muscle tone, so they lower blood pressure.
Right.
So the saturated fats can't do that because they make everything stiffer.
Right. Right. The cellular membrane itself actually becomes less fluid and less moving around.
And then when you make the membrane stiffer, then your receptors don't function as quickly.
Yeah. And I recall that omega-3s actually mechanistically also increase what they call GLUT4 transporters, which is actually what literally transport the glucose from the cellular membrane into the cell. You actually see an increase in GLUT4 transporters, which is also what drugs like metformin and stuff can do.
Right.
So I think the macro message on that, I think he's saying good things, and then say, unfortunately, so he needs to hire somebody like yourself or somebody else to help him with the help. But I think he's so invested at this point. You're not going to get him and his crew to change their direction on this.
I would not necessarily say that.
I
would say you got me into the magazine. Write him a letter. Tell him he needs to talk to me.
So you think there's hope for him? Hope for him yet that you could change? Somebody could change his protection.
You know what? It doesn't. My view. And this is like a broad view. There is not a single person who is not redeemable.
Okay.
Why? Because the wholeness exists in every human being, no matter how far astray they've gone from it, no matter how many bad things they've done, that wholeness is still inside of them. Whatever you call that. I call it awareness, pure awareness. And their life is unconditional love for their body. That doesn't change. So I would never say, oh, don't even try to tell them what's true. No, always try to tell people what's true. And some people will listen and some people won't listen. But if you don't tell them, you know they're not going to listen. Right?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, no, and I think the intent of what some of those people are trying to do is very honorable.
Yeah, I don't, at least my impression is I don't get the impression they're intentionally misleading people. I think they genuinely believe they are giving the right information. I'm sure there's some outliers there that just have something else in mind, but I think of the core people, yes, I don't, my impression is not that they are intentionally trying to mislead or harm people. I think their information, wherever it is coming from, is clearly not. Yeah, it is very one-sided. It is not very evidence-based, clearly.
And they don't have the time to go and dig out the research like we did, which took us years, right?
And unfortunately, what's the really unfortunate part is that even in nutrition, even with fats and all this, it is also fallen into a political divide.
There's that as well, yeah.
Now, how oils and fats got politicized, I don't know, but it's still... If you're in this tribe, oils are good, and if you're in the other tribe, oils, saturated plant oils are bad, or whatever, and they are somehow gotten themselves into those two tribal positions of politics, which it's really unfortunate. But it's just, I mean, it is human nature. I mean, I'm saying this knowing the answer. I know the answer because we've seen all this happen before. But the unfortunate part is that
what is it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right. Yeah, that's a
and then how somehow the fats get in there too.
Yeah,
right?
and so it has pulled in all these other topics that really shouldn't be part of politics.
Right.
So like I say, if you're in that tribe, along with all the other beliefs unrelated to nutrition, you're anti-seed oil, no matter what, And if you're in that other side. Yeah, it's very strange.
But I would love to talk to Brecca, and I'd like to talk to Oz.
Right.
I almost got on the Oz show once through a Tony Robbins event. And then he didn't put me on because he said that I have my name on a product and he didn't want to promote that. But there may have been other reasons as well. Because the oil industry has not, the oil industry has not been supportive of my message, because my message says that they need to fix what they're doing.
But the irony of him not having you on because you're connected to a product. I mean, of all the crappy products that he hawked on that show of his.
Well, that's a whole other story.
Yes. That was, again, that was just, to me, that's a very strange, strange direction that certain people go, Dr. Oz, by all accounts, was a very gifted surgeon. Mm-hmm. And a very good medical doctor. Mm-hmm. Yet somehow he allowed himself to be pulled into hawking ridiculous products. So it would be very ironic that, like, say, that he would not have you on because you had your name attached to a good product.
Yeah. The guy who wanted to put me on was one of the co-producers of his show, who heard me at a Tony Robbins event. Right. Anyway, but I'd like to talk to Brecca. I'd like to talk to Oz. I'd like to talk to RFK, all those guys.
All
the guys in the Maha movement.
Right. I wonder if,
Canada. So, in Canada where I live, there's not even any kind of a program like that that's even trying to do anything.
Well, I mean, you also, though it's a little off base, he has a lot of different people, but he's had candidates like Sean Ryan show. Have you ever seen the Sean Ryan show? It's very popular. Now, of course, Joe Rogan is the alpha. He's the biggest show in the world, and Joe Rogan has all kinds of health experts. He has just about everybody. I will say that Joe tends to lean towards what we're talking about, but I think Joe is a pretty open-minded person. He's not.
Oh, I would love to do his show. Get me on his show.
Yeah, I would. I'm trying to get myself on that show. I have been trying to get myself on that show for a while.
Yeah.
But Joe is a pretty open-minded person. I think people, again,
I like it. I like it because when he puts guests on, he just asks questions, and they're simple questions, and he lets them unfold their stuff.
Yeah.
which is
but he'd be a great choice. Like I said, if I had anybody I could, like I said, I've been trying to get myself on that show forever. And I say Joe does a good job of letting, as you said, people say their part. He seems pretty open-minded. I would say he does lean more towards that sort of more towards the sort of Kennedy direction of eating more red meat and saturated fat kind of thing. But
only because he's never heard the other side of the story.
And he is flexible. He's one of those people that is flexibly minded. That's all I ask for from anybody. Just be an open, have an open mind to whatever is coming your way. And but of course, as Reagan said, trust but verify.
Yeah, well, in this case, verified means try put in practice what this guy says, and you'll see if it works or doesn't work for yourself.
Yeah, and it's not that hard to figure out, both objectively via labs and subjectively via how you feel and all that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's any. I'm trying to think just specific seed oil topics that we should counter. I mean, for example, omega-6 oils are not inherently inflammatory, right?
No, they're both inflammatory and anti-inflammatories. If your omega-6s are not damaged, they turn into series 1 and series 2 eicosanoids. The series 1s is anti-inflammatory. The series 2 are pro-inflammatory, and they play a major role in healing. Inflammation is important in healing. Then when the healing is done, then the inflammation ends, right? Omega-3s turn into series 3s eicosanoids that are mostly anti-inflammatory. So they kind of run shotgun on that whole system.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why they're so important. But that's also why, people who don't use omega-3s or don't get enough omega-3s don't burst into flame, right? Because the omega-6s themselves have contradicting
well, and this
is functions.
And so one of the problems that we've gotten ourselves into, or they have created, is they're have oversimplified, again, without context or nuance, that these lipids have some complex pathways that they go down, and some competing pathways. Even as you said, like say inflammation, when you work out, there is actually, to build muscle, there is an acute post-inflammatory phase, which you need. If you block that in post-inflammatory phase, you will not build muscle. Which is how they found out that things like NSAIDs, high-dose antioxidants, even cold baths post-workout are bad for building muscle. Because you don't want to block it, and it's acute, but that's how you do that short rebuilding protein synthetic. You turn on the mTOR pathway and all that.
Right. But then omega-3s speed healing, like when we worked with athletes, to a third to a half the usual time, which means your inflammation goes down, your healing happens faster, you build muscle faster. And so the omega-3s are actually helpful in all of those, simply because they're the highest energy molecule in the body. Like highest energy essential nutrient molecule in the body.
There were some interesting studies using arachidonic acid post-workout, which actually did find that it improved protein synthesis and all that, as you'd expect.
Because arachidonic acid is what the inflammatory healing eicosanoids are made.
And what was really interesting about those studies also was they did not find like a big spike in C-reactive protein or any other, or IL-6 or that kind of thing, as far as that would show an increase chronic inflammatory state.
Can I tell you why?
Yes.
Because arachidonic acid goes on to produce docosapentaenoic omega-6 acid. And that's a very powerful antioxidant. That's the last on that line of elongation, desaturation.
Right. Okay.
On the omega-6 side, right? So they turn into antioxidants too.
Right.
And the omega-3s, they actually have the highest energy molecule, turns into its own spark control, turns into antioxidants. And all that happens, you shift the double bond in the molecule, and that makes it from methylene interrupted to conjugated, like 2 carbons apart.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime you get conjugated double bonds in a molecule, that has antioxidant benefits or snags free radicals. Takes some,
one of the thoughts that I had from a sort of a best of all worlds way of, as far as athletes are building muscle, might have been, and this brings back to what you're saying about the omega-3s for healing, would be you might do a short term of arachidonic, post workout or something, and then damp that down with omega-3 at some point. So then you get the healing part, you get the acute synthetic mTOR stimulation and all that, and then you would follow that up with an omega-3. There might be some combination thereof, timing wise.
Well, it'd be interesting to play with that and see what happens. Yeah. But if you look at nature, omega-3s and 6s exist together.
Right.
So,
and the body handles it, knows how to manipulate it, deals with it just fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So from a natural point of view, it's not necessary, but in terms of finding out, isolating the functions and understanding how they work with each other and without each other, that would be definitely interesting research for somebody who has the mind.
Yeah, that's just sort
going in that direction. Yeah,
because a company, that makes sells arachidonic acid as a supplement, as a sports supplement, as a bodybuilding type supplement, and they funded, and I did some work for them.
Okay.
And wrote some articles and stuff. The owner of the company's name is Bill Lulin, very, very sharp guy. But I did some work for them, and that was sort of one of my things that I had discussed with him. He funded some studies. He did fund studies, and one of them, I thought, a follow-up study, like I say, would have been to use his product and then follow that up with the omega-3 as sort of the damping down, part. Yeah. Like I say, so coming back around
if anybody wants to do the studies, I'd certainly be willing to have a couple of conversations about, in terms of, what the options are and how to set it up. I mean, maybe they don't need my help to do that, but I'd certainly be interested in that conversation.
Well, like I say, first we have to get you on, Joe Rogan and maybe even Sean Ryan has not really had a lot of people in the nutrition realm like Joe Rogan does, but I think he's started again. He's an open-minded.
Maybe it's time he started.
Yeah, well, and he's an open-minded person, and a very curious person. So anybody's got a curious mind likes, are drawn to people that have information and go against. And he's not afraid of going against, the current, fad of being anti whatever or pro whatever. Again. Give Joe Rogan credit there. He doesn't seem to have much problems going against the grain of whatever is, hot or popular. But there's a lot of other. Those are the two big names. I mean, there's lots of other people. There's a whole bunch of other people. Like let me make a thought on that, and I'll put a list together. Maybe we can get you because there's only about 3 people listen to this show, so we're not gonna get you the big. We're not gonna get you the.
But don't diss it. One of them might know these 2 guys.
Yeah, we're not going to get you the big audience that you want. And a lot of that's my fault because I've just been very inconsistent with doing these programs. I don't. I mean, building an audience wherever you are, but especially online is consistency. You got to be consistent. Sure. You got to, and that has always been my Achilles heel. No matter. Whether I'm writing articles, whether I'm doing, it doesn't matter. Consistency has always been, I've never been a volume person. I've got to have something to say. If I don't have something to say that I think is important or compelling, I just can't make a video to say nothing. But anyway, that's my fault. So regardless. So the message, the basic take home, I guess, so the MAHA, the basic Kennedy message, the macro message is good. Yep. The problem, the details are problematic. They're not. Some of them are not terrible. I think I think most of his mistake is in the fat recommendations. I mean, the rest of it's
that's the story, right?
Yeah, that's the story. I mean, because they're leaning towards more protein, which is fine. More obviously whole food, less processed food. So it really, I would think the key mistake in their message and stuff is they don't, the fat part seems to be really the largest, the most obvious mistake that they're making there And like I say, and I don't know if you'll agree with this. Let's see if you agree with my thought on this. Is obviously I would have unrefined oils as my primary oil intake, given the choice. But of the other two choices, I think I would still take even those refined vegetable oils over saturated fat if I had to line them up. Because even the studies that we have, and now there's quite a few of them, still find even, seed oils and vegetable oils are still associated with less heart disease, less cancer. And these aren't even studying the good stuff. I mean, imagine the benefits we would see if these were unprocessed oils, So I have to say, if I was going to line them up in priority, I think I might not be a big fan of those processed oils, but I think they're still an improvement over all day carnivore diets and that type of thing.
I would say this: you don't have to make a choice between them. But if you go the saturated route, you're going to be more likely to have cardiovascular problems, and if you go the damaged seed oil route, you're going to more likely to have inflammatory or cancer problems. And that's because in the seed oils, a tablespoon of a seed oil, if it's 1% damaged, will have 60 quintillion damaged molecules in it. 60 quintillion. That's like more than 1 million damaged molecules for every cell in your body. Every one of your body's 60 trillion cells. And those molecules never existed in nature. So they occupy space somewhere and interfere with what's supposed to be going on. And because they're foreign to the body, the immune system isolates them, tries to figure out what to do with them. But because they never existed in nature, it might not be able to fix them. So they become chronic.
So
getting rid of those kind of molecules is like very, very slow.
These are like polymers and dimers and that type of thing.
Yeah, all of it, right? They're different shapes, different sizes, polymers, dimers, trimers, polymers. But there's double bond shifted molecules, cyclized molecules, fragmented molecules, and then if the oxidized and even cross-linked molecules within triglycerides and cross-linked molecules across triglycerides. And then, so there's a lot of different ways you can mess them up. And each one of them, if it didn't exist in nature, you should be highly suspicious that they would probably not be good for body function, because body function, health is natural body function.
Right. So at the very least, they're taking processing. They require processing in the body to deal with them in one respect or another, and whether they're carcinogenic, mutagenic, immune suppressive. Right. So I guess if we could
lucky for us, we don't have to make a choice between those two.
If we could just get Kennedy and associated company to understand the difference between those highly processed seed oils and the non-processed, as well as the ratios.
Yeah, making oils with health in mind. I'm in the Canadian Health Food Association Hall of Fame for starting the industry of making oils with health in mind.
Yeah, and well, like I say, we now have a growing number of people in the U.S. that are being convinced that all seed oils, 6-3 whatever, are bad and pro-inflammatory.
Yeah,
which you can easily demonstrate that's not true.
Yeah,
they also are being told and think that saturated fat is not problematic.
Yeah, well, it's not problematic if you've optimized your intake of the essentials, but you have to put the essentials first. But if you've optimized your intake of omega-3 and omega-6 undamaged in the right ratio, then saturated fats just become fuel.
Right. Well, I mean, you don't. It doesn't.
But if you take them instead of essential fatty acids, well, they can't do the job of essential fatty acids, and essential fatty acids are essential, and saturated fats are not.
Right. And I don't know. It's the strangest. Some of the times I have some very strange conversations online where somebody says, I avoid all seed oils, and I will say, so what is your source of EFAs?
Yeah.
And you'll get no answer. Because how do you answer that question?
Well, the guy who told me that seed oils are bad didn't answer that question for me, so I don't know.
Right. So my question is always very simple. Okay, so you avoid all seed oils. So what is your source of EFAs?
Yeah.
And you will not get an answer. And so, yes, you will get. I've never gotten again, or someone will say, all seed oils are. Like I say, all seed oils are negatives, and I will pull a good study, a good high quality, controlled study showing that omega-3 via flax oil is anti-inflammatory. They even, you might have seen this study. They actually did a study with people with prostate cancer, and found that flax oil in the form of ground flax seed, which of course has other benefit. There are other things in the seed too. But showed benefit in men with prostate cancer and reduced inflammation, reduced inflammatory markers, i.e. IL-6 and HSCRP and all that. So it's a very strange.
But then they did some studies with alpha-linolenic acid, the omega-3 in flax, and they found that it enhanced prostate cancer. So then my question was, okay, well, how do they get that oil? Well, it's in ampoules, little glass transparent ampoules. And how was it made? There's an enormous amount of processing that had to take place from the flax that contained it to having it in an ampoule as a pure alpha-linolenic acid. So there's a lot of processing, and nobody talks about what's damaged and how much of the damage they can remove, or whether even they do it at all. And so when you take this very highly processed product, you're now saying, and that's what they would said, that you shouldn't use flax or flax oil because it causes prostate cancer cells to thrive. Yeah, but flax and flax oil are not what they actually did the study with. So then you get confusing results, and then the people who haven't crawled down the wormhole to figure out the details.
Well, that brings you back to context and nuance. You have to go and dig a bit to see what are we talking about, and almost in science, but in life in general, I would think in life in general, every time you talk in general over generalities, you're usually wrong. You're almost invariably wrong.
Yeah, or if you say always and never.
Yeah, well, everything is X, or everything is whatever the hell. But I mean, every time you over generalize things, you're usually wrong. And it only gets worse when you were talking about science and nutrition, and And I mean, to paraphrase Einstein, make things as simple as possible, but not simpler.
Yeah, right.
Which is,
now in science, because there's so much money involved in nutrition and all of that stuff, now a lot of the science is doctored.
Yes.
Which means they set up studies to prove a point instead of going neutral in their attitude and doing a study and seeing what it shows.
Yeah.
So they design studies deliberately to mislead
that is unfortunately an entire show onto itself.
Yeah. What is it? 50 to 80% of what's in the major medical journals is wrong. Can't
be reproduced. Yeah. It's not reproducible, which means it can't be verified.
The magazines are all funded by the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah. No, the entire publishing the entire publishing reality has gone into a not a good place. With pay for play journals where yes, and there's all sorts of journals that anybody can basically, if you pay enough to get into, you will the peer review process is non-existent or just whatever. So
and then what that turns into, driven people don't tell the truth because they have a goal in mind. And the only people who will tell the truth are people who are content within themselves.
Yeah,
they don't have an agenda. They don't have a foregone conclusion that they want to promote.
Yes, unfortunately, the credibility of science and scientific publications and all that have really taken a hit.
Yeah, because the scientific method is a tool, and whether the tool is used constructively or destructively depends on the intent of the user.
Yeah, right. And yes, you certainly can. And this again does come back to either having, the ability to go read some of that stuff and go down that rabbit hole and understand the contextual situation and who's funding it and what is their agenda. Or, of course, there's basic things like the bulk of the data. What is the bulk of the data from various directions say? The media will take one study that is different from all the other studies and run with it to freak people out or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yet, it's a small, shitty study versus the other 99,000 studies that are big, well done quality studies, and people get confused. And that's a whole different topic unto itself. It's a difficult topic.
Gotta say, when I started in 1981, it was a lot easier to get to truth on oils than it is now.
Right. Well, the signal to noise has gotten so small.
There's a lot of noise now.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise now. So again, as we were talking off air, but we'll say now, just again, that back in the day, the problem then was the gatekeepers of information. You had nothing but layers of gatekeepers that sometimes did prevent good the right information, the quality information from coming to the forefront. Now you have the opposite problem. We went past now there's no gatekeepers. There's just anybody with a loud enough voice and enough money.
Would you call them the hordes?
Yeah. Well, I might take the D off of there and just call them the whores, but whatever. Yeah, it's like I say, it is a bit of a mess. It is, of course, its own topic, and I wish. Again, I think with, and I don't know where I keep coming back to Kennedy per se, but I sort of feel like he's kind of the tip of the spear of this, all the things that's going on with these influencers and some of the people you mentioned as far as the disinformation and the misinformation that they are putting out. So I'm kind of coming back to him as the leader of them, but maybe that's unfair. But certainly some pros and some cons, and when I read his report, I was like, this close. It was this close to being actually a really good document. There's some really good things in there, and then there's some we went from one direction, the old food pyramid. We haven't used that, but with all the carbs and all that, and then we kind of flipped it to the other way around, where they're just recommending slabs of high fat, saturated fat meat. And so the good news is that eventually the truth always wins. Yes, like I say, no lie lives forever, and it will come around. And again, I'm going to sound really jaded by saying this, but I have to say these things tend to work themselves out in a Darwinian fashion. If you know what I'm saying, I know it's kind of mean to me to say, but they do have a Darwinian way of working themselves out. I don't mean, and I wish the best and nothing ill to anybody, but do your best to get it right. Yes. So maybe like I said, we'll put this out. Yeah. I guess the seed oil one is a little perplexing, though. Again, I think they have mixed up their information with heavily processed seed oils and the ratio issue of the 6-to-3 situation. And if they were to get those correct, we might see improvements in health. Yep. So I know that. So you're always a big picture thinker. Yeah. As health and wellness, and I know that your direction is. You were saying, was it natural health? No, I two things. Two things. We've been on this planet for 200,000 years as humans. As human beings. Right. Okay. At least maybe more, maybe less. Maybe it's only 6,000 years. Right. No. 6,000. Right. But in all of that time,
there are two things that affect us more than anything else. One is, what is this? Who am I?
Self-awareness.
What is a human being? What is it good for? Where does it come from? Where does it go? Why am I here? All of those, the existential questions, right? Everybody has to deal with them one way or another. Even if you have a blue collar job and you do it, you ask, why is my wife so hard to live with? Why is my husband so hard to live with?
Why do my kids hate me?
Yeah. All of those things, right? So that's the one. And the other one is health. You always got something going on with your health. Either you bang your knee, or you got the gas, or you burping, or you breath smells, or you got diarrhea or constipation, or you got stomach aches after you eat, and all the other stuff that goes wrong. You twist your bones, break stuff. Right?
It is amazing that we live as long as we do. All considering all the things that can get us.
So
and that's without.
Apparently the designer was pretty good, right.
And that's
the design is a pretty good design.
And that's
right?
and that's minus saber-toothed tigers trying to eat you and things like that. I mean, that's now we've actually eliminated that. But yeah,
right. So you would think that we would have some kind of a good, practicable handle on the existential question and on what is the nature of health. Total health is based in nature and human nature. And there are 10 parts to it that are completely different, that have a different nature, need a different function, need a different kind of attention on a regular basis, go off in a different way and respond to a different kind of intervention.
All right.
And we have never put that together.
So do you have the 10 essential points handy?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to be 84 this year. So before I check out, I'm going to put those two together.
All right.
So what are they?
Yes.
At the core, pure awareness.
All right.
And that's experiential. You can't even describe it. It's pure awareness. Within that pure awareness, which is infinite, it's centered in you, centered everywhere, goes out to infinity. And it's an experience, not a head trip about what does infinity look like? Well, you can't imagine infinity, right? So pure awareness, within pure awareness, there's a flow of a solar fraction of solar energy that when it's in the body is called life. We get it. It's stored in bonds between atoms in molecules. So that's where we get our life from. It's stored within molecules, okay?
Life force, basically.
So that's life, the energy, that thing that when it separates from the body, your body goes horizontal permanently, right? So that's number 2. The shine of that into the world, the nature of that energy is unconditional, empowering love for the body. So you are unconditionally loved 24/7, lifelong, from the life within you. Life is love. Life is also the master of your body. Life is also the thing that all the masters talked about. Was in them, but they said it's in all of you. It's in every human being. So that's life. The shine of that into the world, I call it positive mind sometimes, or inspired purpose. And fundamentally means when you feel present, really present in your life. What do you need? What do you want to do with your life? Well, there's nothing left to do except to help, to do what needs to be done, and maybe to make the biggest splash for good that you can make in the time you have. So that's number 3. Number 4 is the body, food and fitness. That's where most of our focus on health goes. Number 5 is protective mind. That's all the survival stuff. And that includes safety and preemptive protective measures, procreation, parenting, education. Okay? That's number 5. Number 6, I call it habitual mind. That's all the mental garbage in your head. Culture garbage, religious garbage, historical garbage, all the bullshit that we live by.
baggage,
the traditions and
the baggage, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's not biological. Baggage. Just people made it up, and then it became a thing, right?
Right. Limiting.
Like then they say that's how we do things around here, right?
Well, humans love tradition. And if we do something more than a few times, it becomes tradition, and then you can't get rid of it.
But you know why we love tradition? Mm-hmm. Because we don't own our wholeness. Then we got to lean on something. So then you lean on stuff. So if you're not fully present in your being and independent, depending on what's within you, then you're going to be finding something to belong to, and it'll be some group, some mob, and every mob has an ideology. Mm-hmm. And all the ideologies, whether government ideologies, religious ideologies, cultural ideologies, it's all bullshit.
Well, and so those very, you want, those you want to tribalism.
Yeah. Tribalism is a. So you want to become aware of those and say, does this make practical biological sense? And if it doesn't, dump it. Okay. And so that's number 6. That's number 6. Number 7 is your social group. You know that affects your health. So you want to hang out with people who support your independence. That's what your Constitution is supposed to do, right? Protect the freedom of the individual, right? But the freedom has to also be based on truth. And that part is not as clear, right? So social group, then you have natural environment. That's where all your resources come from. That's your context. That's your stage, right? And there's respect and gratitude, I think, are equally appropriate in that regard. Then you have the big picture. I'm a terminal condition living in an infinite universe. And then the last one is emotions. Emotions are a composite of the other 9. So those are the 10. Okay. And they, like I said, they each have a different nature, different function, need a different kind of attention, go off in a different way and respond to a different kind of intervention. Total health is if you're live in line with all of them, living aligned with all of them. When one of them gets out of line, whatever it confers to health goes away. And when you get back in line, you get it back. That's the model.
I think this was number 7, the social network, the social structure.
Yeah.
In the U.S., at least, I think worldwide, but in the U.S. especially, we are socially very fractured, and it's getting worse. People are not socially connected. They're not doing the things that we used to depend on for that social support, networking type of thing. And so we are really in a bad place in that.
Well, first of all, the problem with groups is groups create coherence inward, but they create separation and enmity outward.
From other groups, right?
Yeah.
From the other, quote unquote, the other, right?
Yeah. Well, that's mob against mob. Mob against mob.
Yeah, that's the tribalism thing. Humans are very tribalistic.
But the reason why we join the mobs is that's our substitute for belonging to ourselves, belonging to life, belonging to peace, belonging to awareness. And then because we got to belong to something. And so the cure for the fractionation or the fractitioning of a society or a group or groups in the world is people need to get back in touch with their essence. And we were in that essence in our mother's womb because there was nowhere to go, nothing to do, and our focus was at rest inside in our nature. So we hung out there in deep meditation for 9 months,
right?
Well, or however long we were in there. Then when we came out, we had to get to know the world. Our focus went out into the world to get to know it. We got disconnected.
So that seems to me like the core of all these others is that.
And heartache began at that point. And heartache came from disconnection from ourselves, discontent that comes from that. And so everything we do comes from discontent instead of from trying to help. And discontent is always, what do I have to do to get feeling taken care of? And we have forgotten, and we don't know. And nothing in our culture reminds us that we need to come back to ourselves. So, and that is the cure, because when I'm content, I can listen to the Democrats and I can listen to the Republican and quietly tell to myself, bullshit.
So how are you recommending to people books, exercises, beginning stage to start to realize some of that starting from that core centered spot, which you're talking about, and then don't you have that centeredness?
Yeah.
Right.
So are you a human being or a human doing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking you the question.
Oh, me? Well, I would like to, of course, say I would like to claim that I am a human being.
Okay. We call ourselves human beings.
Yeah. Yeah. Who has done the work, tried to do the work to be a human being centered.
That's a contradiction in terms, because you don't do being. So we are human beings who live like human doings.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get her done. So much to do. Do.
Yeah.
And I say to people, if you do too much, you end up being doo-doo.
Yeah.
Right. So we're human beings. If you want to get to know what you are, who you are, what is within you, you need to spend time with
yourself.
Oh, yeah. That's how you do it, right? You observe what you want to get to know. You spend time with yourself. I say to people every day, take some time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. I like an hour. Spend an hour sitting down in a safe place by yourself, aware, awake, alert, and still. And see how still you can become. Do it like a child's game, right? You know how when we play hide and seek, sometimes you have to become really still. And see how deep you can go into that stillness. And how long can you stay there? And what do you notice in that stillness? And maybe breathe quietly, slowly, gently. What do you experience in that quietness? And if you can't do that, then the other way to start is with heartache. Everybody knows heartache. Something triggers it. You got dumped, or your grandmother died, or something happened. Your expectation got blown, and you feel it in your chest. And there's hundreds of words for it. I've got 10 pages of words that people use for that feeling in their chest.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling is the greatest gift you were ever given by life, because it's like thirst that makes you look for water, like hunger that makes you look for food, like tiredness that makes you look for a bed, like horny that makes you look for sex. Heartache is the call to bring your focus back home inside, to connect with the beauty, with the magnificence of your own existence. And when you start with heartache, then it pulls you out of your head really quick. That's hard to do. Get out of your head is hard. Mm-hmm. So heartache pulls you out instantly, puts you in your chest, and that far behind it, less than a hair's breadth behind that, is your reconnection to the beauty of your own existence.
So even if you are, in a sense, this is very similar to a meditative approach.
Yeah, whether you call it stillness or meditation, right, or internal mindfulness or self-knowledge.
But even if you're sitting there and maybe that heartbreak, people are feeling that and they're feeling it as a negative.
Right. It's not a negative. Right. It's a gift.
So they think they need to get away from it.
Exactly. That's what we usually do. Or blame it on somebody.
Right. So they'll break from that stillness that they're trying, because they don't want to feel that, because the voices that the head starts to talk.
Yeah. When I say to people, when you feel heartache, don't look for it, because you're gonna it visits you often.
Yeah.
When you feel heartache, sit quietly with it, feel it,
right,
accept it, acknowledge it. You might have some tears, but it won't kill you, right?
yeah,
And maybe embrace it, accept it as a gift, maybe be grateful because it's a gift that's calling you home.
Yeah, and there will, of course, be a time where you can't experience that either because you are gone. You know,
what do you mean gone?
Dead.
Oh,
as in.
Well, no, actually, that's where you go when you die.
Right.
In deep sleep, you go there. In meditation, you go there.
Yeah.
In stillness, you go there, and in death, you
right.
go there.
Right.
Something in you never dies.
Yes.
Like the awareness never dies. The energy never dies. Something in you is eternal.
I think, and there are a lot of very solid scientists and stuff that are coming to that conclusion.
Yeah, if you look deep enough into anything, you end up there.
Yeah, you exactly. But a little bit of a turn of, but that's no longer considered sort of separate from science as far as the possibility of consciousness continuing on. That consciousness is very possibly a non-local phenomenon, right? Yeah. It's not, your brain may be an antenna or something that a conduit to consciousness. But it's not sitting there. It's
your brain. Yeah, your brain does not create consciousness. Right. Consciousness creates your brain.
Yeah, it's a non-local phenomenon, is what I like to say.
Yeah, I think the deeper scientists are getting more in that direction.
Yeah, they are.
Science itself tries to not be subjective. So there are a lot of people who fight that too.
I wrote, and I'm going to send it to you because I think you'd enjoy it. But I wrote an article on consciousness being a non-local phenomenon.
Yeah.
Life after conscious after death, near-death experiences, and getting way out there, how that all taps into possibly non-human intelligence, that that we're not alone, i.e. aliens and that kind of thing. I hate to say aliens, but because it just sort of creates a thing. But
what? When you go to the depth of your being, you're deeper than the alien consciousness that we're worried about.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there are aliens, the depth of their being is in the same place.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. I have some theories on the matter, but yes, I have been following some of the scientists who are physicists and theoretical types and all that, and they seem to be coming around again to consciousness. As a non-local entity of some kind, whether it's a field or an alternative.
And the quantum physicists all dabbled with it. Yeah, they were all looking into that.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like I say,
they got quite a bit of their information from some of the Indian scriptures,
right?
Because the Indians have been at it for longer than we have in the West, like 5,000 years, 20,000 years.
It's interesting to see that also. Of course, the Indians and shaman and all that. Of course, a very common thread among them was the use of psychedelics.
Psychedelics, yeah. Psychedelics. I did psychedelics in the '60s after I left university, and I have to tell you, I'm a war baby. I was born during the Second World War. By the time I was 3, I was a war baby, then a refugee, then an orphan, right? And so we got stripped of everything. So that's why I've always been searching for what is and what is true and what can I depend on. So I got set up for that. And what happened with I did an LSD trip in 1966, maybe. I can't remember. It was 2064. I can't remember exactly when it was. But what happened was I was laughing and crying at the same time, rolling on the floor. Thought it was the funniest thing that had ever happened, that everything I was so studiously looking for in the world, like we do, right, was all already inside of me. I thought that was the funniest thing. And that sort of melted the door off my war baby personality. And I started to see, my God,
your survivor reactive
Yeah, I'm not a survivor. I mean, I'm a survivor, but I have a way more than survival options.
Well,
I can literally go any direction I want. Where do I want to go?
The beauty of that is, like I say, psychedelics have finally starting to come full circle and are being used and being accepted in the medical community for depression. They're being used by Joe Rogan is very big on psychedelics. That's one thing he's very open-minded to. But they are being utilized by veterans for getting to that place that you're talking about.
PTSD, for PTSD, and also death, fear of death, and
So there's a lot of really beneficial. That's in a world of a lot of very strange things going on. There is some. That's one of the bright spots that I think is very interesting. Yeah, and Sean Ryan,
but they have to be used with care and respect because they're very powerful.
Yeah. And again, that is where if you can do it with a legit, shaman or a medicine man or therapist who has experience with it or whatever, that's obviously the way to go. But that's
and then there are the teachers of meditation who some of them teach you methods that make it a little bit easier to bring your focus inward when it's usually always going outward. So all of that. And I think that's where the solutions to the problems we've created come more from that inner realm, from that quieter place.
It has to, I mean, ultimately it has to. I mean, there's really there isn't a choice in the matter. It's not because nothing external is going to do it for you.
So the question is, are we wise enough to go there on our, by vision, or do we have to mess everything up and get there because we got nowhere left to go?
Well, that sounds like a good place to end this show. I would say that would be the spot to leave people. And if you have any, when I put this up on my page or whatever, if there's any reading that you think, anything you want to send me for links to what things you think people should read, sources, whatever, I can put them below that. And, if we want to send anywhere to people. I mean, for myself, for example, I really like, I don't know if you know Dr. Howard Zinn, if you've ever heard of Howard Kabat-Zinn.
I have, yes.
Yeah, great. Yeah. He's somebody I recommend. I've read probably 5 or 6 of his books, and he's great as far as a great starting place, very similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
He has one book called Full Catastrophe Living, which is about people that are really in the middle of a really difficult time in their life, whether it's illness, whether it's, that's a really good place to start. If you're feeling, his recent book called Wherever You Go, There You Are, which is a great book.
That was Ram Dass, right?
Yeah. And it's a great, he's got about 4 or 5 of them I've read. I like them all, but I think the 2 I really like.
Be Here Now was the original one.
Yeah. And I think it's his most recent book, but that one is really very much about, mindful meditation, learning to again, be inward, very much what you're saying, but, and you can, as you said, you can call it lots of different things, whatever.
Yeah. And
whatever
I've always gone more in the direction of the masters.
Mm-hmm.
So Buddha, Krishna, Lord Ram, Lao Tzu, Huangpo, Chuang Tzu, Socrates.
Yeah.
Christ,
mm-hmm.
And then among the living, Osho, well, he's gone now. Osho, when you read some of Osho's stuff, is pretty cool, and Sadhguru. There's one Prem Rawat. He has a book called "Hear Yourself, How to Find Peace in a Noisy World." There's like signal to noise, right?
Yeah.
That's a good book to pick up.
Well,
and then some of them then teach different methods, just to help you.
Yeah, I think Dr. Zinn does a really good job of sort of synthesizing a lot of this similar stuff for maybe a more Western mind, kind of that a lot of Western more. He's the one that sort of brought meditation and mindful meditation into the accepted quote unquote Western medical system.
Yeah, then there's another one. Singer, I think, is his name. The untethered soul.
Mm-hmm.
I think something like that, The Untethered Soul.
Some of it also is very in line with the Stoics too, if you've ever read any of the Stoics.
Yeah.
And some of it is shockingly similar, considering they never met Buddha and Marcus Aurelius or whatever, never met each other. It is amazing how those two minds.
Yeah, Marcus Aurelius has some really good thoughts.
How those two minds who are alive around the same time too.
Yeah,
and that real similar time came to such similar sort of conclusions and advice to people. They're different too, but of course, at the core, there's some real similarities there, which is
well, if you
really don't have any control over the external world, but you have control over your internal self,
right? And something in you never changes. So if you want something constant, then go to what is constant.
So I have kind of gotten into something interested in the Stoics.
Okay,
with some similarities there. So all right. So we're gonna I think we should let you go.
Yeah, Spinoza. Don't forget Spinoza.
Spinoza. Okay. So I think we covered a lot of ground. Oils, getting back to the diet, the importance of the seed oil situation. If people have comments, questions, leave it below the video.
And we missed digestion.
Dr. Erasmus.
And we missed digestion, but we can do that another time.
Okay, well, let's get this one up, and we can always, I'm always happy we can do a whole series of these for all I care. It's fine with me. So. But I figure we got an hour and a half in here, so it went by quick. And I will, and like I say, the comments, questions, thoughts, all that feedback, leave it below, and we will do another one if people want to know. This is actually the second show. We did a show years ago, so this is, I guess you could call this a follow-up. But anyway, things have changed an awful lot in the seed oil world since we did that last show, and it's become a very key topic that needed to be covered. So there you go. And you got it from I would say the guru of all seed oils and essential fatty acids and all that. It was Dr. Erasmus, who literally wrote the book on the topic. So here you take it from that. I hope people will listen to what they've learned here today.